When I turned off the last light in the house, I felt the weight of that silence embracing me completely. I had just told all of this as if searching for breath to survive that first night in the empty house. The clock kept moving without mercy, and his absence was the only certainty. I ran my hand over the sheets, still with his scent, and a longing so deep ran through me that even the air seemed hard to breathe. I wanted to disappear in that moment, to run from the emptiness that now lived with me. I stood at the bedroom door looking at his side of the bed, feeling a mix of sadness and anger. For a moment I wished it was all just a nightmare and that any minute he would show up there, smiling like always. But the emptiness answered louder. I listened to the silence, a silence that didn't ask permission to enter, and suddenly everything that was normal became strange. The house was full of memories and empty of any future. The living room, once so full of life, looked motionless like an old photograph. The sofa still held the dent from where he sat, as if waiting for his return. I sat down slowly, feeling the cold of the fabric, trying to remember the warmth of our Sundays. The TV remote was left on the armrest, as if at any moment he would change the channel. Every object screamed how much he was missed. In the kitchen, the smell of the coffee I had made that afternoon still floated in the air. I picked up his favorite mug and stared at it, thinking about how many coffees we shared there, almost without noticing. Now every simple task seemed to carry a new weight. I washed the mug as if in doing so I could care for him one last time, but the emptiness was immense. The sound of water hitting the sink seemed to echo throughout the whole house. With every step the longing took new forms. The pile of newspapers on the table, the clothes folded carelessly, the scent that still lingered in the hallway. I realized the house had stopped in time, but life outside kept going. The neighbors' voices, the distant sound of cars, everything reminded me that the world would not stop just because my heart was in pieces. I tried to find strength to make the bed, as if that could give me some control over the pain. I pulled the sheet gently, remembering the mornings when he'd complain about the cold, the funny way he wrapped himself up in the blanket. But now all that was left was space, so much space. Every move came with a deafening silence. Sometimes I would stop in the middle of the living room and wait to hear footsteps coming down the hallway. I waited for the sound of keys at the door, for his habit of asking if I wanted some tea. But the silence was louder than any memory. I sat at the table and stared at the empty chair, wishing he were there to share dinner, to laugh at my repeated stories. The empty chair seemed to look back at me as if it too missed him. Fear also came with full force. The fear of sleeping and waking up not knowing how to deal with a new day, the fear of never feeling joy again, the fear of forgetting the sound of his voice with time. The silence felt like a thick fog, dense, hard to get through. I turned on the TV looking for any noise to keep me company, but I didn't pay attention to anything on the screen. The emptiness was still there, sitting right beside me. I thought of calling someone, sharing the pain, but the words wouldn't come. How could I explain this hole that opened up inside me? I chose to stay quiet, just listening to my own crying, trying not to scare anyone who might hear me from outside. Grief is loud for those who feel it, but almost invisible for those who look from afar. The silence kept me company, even though it hurt more than anything. I got up and started walking through the house as if searching for something lost. I opened drawers, touched the clothes, sat on the bedroom floor like we did when the power went out. Every little corner held a memory, a small piece of our story. It was impossible not to cry in the face of so much absence. The house became a huge album of memories. The night dragged on for a long time. I checked the clock every half hour, hoping time would pass faster. Every minute felt like a challenge, every hour an extra weight on my shoulders. I closed my eyes and tried to remember the way he smiled, the sound of his laughter echoing through the rooms. Sleep didn't come easily because my mind kept running through every moment we had lived. Longing mixed with fear, and fear turned into exhaustion. The pillow, wet with tears, was the only possible comfort. I tried to hold on to the good memories, but those memories also hurt when your heart is raw. Sometimes I caught myself talking out loud as if he were still nearby, listening to every outburst. Looking at the photos on the shelf, I understood how cruel life can be in its silence. Photos that once made me smile now brought tears. Trips, birthdays, simple moments that now seemed as distant as another life. The love was too big to fit inside me, so it spilled out as pain. That first night was like this. Every wall a mirror of my pain, every object a reminder of what was lost. I wanted to run away, to leave everything behind, but the house was also my refuge. The last place where he still existed in some way. Grief comes to live with us when we lose someone, and learning to live with it is a silent battle. I took a deep breath, let my body fall onto the bed again. Exhaustion won, but peace didn't come. I closed my eyes and just hoped to make it through the next day. The first night in the empty house was a lonely crossing, with my heart in pieces and silence as my only company. The sun rose, but I didn't notice right away. I opened my eyes with a heavy heart, feeling the room bigger and colder than ever. I stayed in bed for a while, staring at the ceiling, trying to find the strength to get up. The silence once again seemed to take over, filling everything in a suffocating way. My first instinct was to close my eyes and pretend nothing had changed. The alarm rang, and for a moment I waited to hear him complain about the noise, ask for 5 more minutes. But only silence answered. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the absence like a cold blanket. I looked to the side at the pillow still with his scent, and my chest tightened once again. The routine seemed so distant, as if I had forgotten how to live. The house, now lit by daylight, revealed his absence even more clearly. Every object in its place, everything unused, as if waiting for someone who would not return. I went to the kitchen, made coffee slowly, thinking about how many mornings I had shared that same table. I picked up his favorite mug by instinct, and only after did I realize how much that hurt. I forced myself to eat something, but the bread seemed hard to swallow. I looked at my phone, hoping for a message, as if he could somehow send a sign from wherever he was. The feeling of abandonment grew in silence. I tried to remember the last time we laughed together at breakfast, but the memory came mixed with sadness. The phone rang. It was a friend asking how I was. I replied that everything was fine, but the truth was the opposite. I didn't want to seem weak, didn't want to bother anyone with my grief. Loneliness at times like these has a different weight, a weight you can't easily share. I wanted to hang up the phone and cry all over again. I looked out the window and saw life happening outside while mine seemed frozen in time. People going to work, the noise of traffic, the world moving on as if nothing had happened. The feeling was of being invisible, a piece out of place in a giant puzzle. Everything felt like a big emptiness. I tried to keep myself busy with small chores. I folded clothes, did the dishes, tidied up the bedroom. Everything in slow motion, as if every act required a huge effort. The daily tasks, once divided, were now mine alone. Every drawer I opened brought a memory. Every closet hid a piece of longing. I decided to go out to buy bread, to breathe a little fresh air. On the way, I passed the bakery where we always went together on Saturdays. The attendant asked about him without knowing the news, and everything fell apart again. I tried to smile, but it was an empty smile, the kind you make just so you don't fall apart in front of someone. I carried the bread as if I was carrying the world in my hands. The way back home was even harder. The streets, the trees, the morning smell, everything seemed to ask for his presence. I got home and sat in the living room, looking at the door as if hoping something would be different when I walked in. But the emptiness welcomed me with open arms. It was like living in a labyrinth. Each door I opened only increased the sense of abandonment. I played some soft music just to try to fill the silence. I closed my eyes and for a moment imagined him there, sitting beside me, singing out of tune as he always did. The longing mixed with the desire to start again, but it was hard to find strength inside my chest. The past seemed to pull my body backward with every step. I remembered when we started everything from scratch, the first house, the struggles we overcame together. Now the challenge was to learn how to live without him, to retrace my steps alone. The fear of the new, the fear of failing, all of that came with the urge to give up. But even so, even without wanting to, I kept breathing. I picked up an old notebook and wrote a few random words. I didn't know if it was venting or just an attempt to keep a part of him alive. Each letter felt like an enormous effort, but it was necessary to try. Writing became a silent companion, a way to reorganize thoughts and emotions. In the middle of so many attempts to start over, I realized there are days when abandonment speaks louder. I missed the hugs, the scent, the way he looked at me without saying anything. I thought of everything left unsaid, of words kept, of apologies I never needed to ask for. Grief draws invisible scars. I saw an old message on my phone, a photo of a simple moment. A coffee, a smile, a sunset. Life is made of these little memories that now hurt so much. I wanted to erase it but couldn't. Some pains need to stay for a while, to remind us that love was real. At the end of that day, exhaustion won. I got ready for bed, looked at the room as if searching for answers. The emptiness was still there, but there was also a thread of hope, almost invisible. It was just the beginning of the beginning again, one step at a time, trying to understand how to rebuild everything that had been broken by absence. Time kept passing slowly, as if each day was a new test of endurance. There was a moment when I wanted to give up, to let go of everything and hide from the world. But without realizing it, a small spark of courage started to grow inside me. It was on an ordinary morning, while opening the window and letting the sun in, that I felt for the first time it might be possible to breathe without guilt. Facing my greatest fear was accepting that life goes on, even when everything inside feels like it's falling apart. It took courage to leave the house, to face people's looks and answer questions that had no answer. Every step outside the routine was a new challenge. I slowly discovered that my own company could be enough at times. I got an unexpected visit, someone who came just to bring a cake and a tight hug. I realized how a simple gesture can change the day of someone who's suffering. In the middle of our conversation, I managed to truly smile for the first time in a long while. It wasn't a complete smile, but it was real. It was as if, at that moment, I could see there is life after grief, even if it's a different life. One of the hardest challenges was sorting through his things. Opening drawers, separating clothes, deciding what to keep and what to donate. Each piece was a memory, a story, a part of the two of us. I cried a lot through that process, but I also felt a strength growing inside me, as if I was slowly allowing myself to move on. I tried to fill my days with new tasks. I signed up for an online cooking class just to keep myself busy. Cooking for just one person felt sad at first, but little by little it became a ritual of self-care. I discovered new flavors, tried recipes he never tasted, and with every finished dish I felt a hint of pride. I had to learn to handle loneliness in a new way. I discovered that silence doesn't have to be an enemy. It can be a space to listen to your own heart. I found myself talking to myself, rethinking old beliefs, and seeing pain as a part of life that needs to be embraced. I learned to give time to time, even when everything inside me screamed for speed. Friends, even from afar, sent messages, videos, funny memes. It was comforting to realize that, even alone, I was remembered and loved. I accepted invitations to go out, even when I didn't feel like it, and realized the world outside wasn't as scary as I imagined. Sadness started giving way to small moments of joy, almost like rays of sunshine after a long storm. I also discovered that grief isn't linear. There are days when everything hurts more and days when longing becomes just a small smile. I allowed myself to feel everything without judgment, without trying to rush anything. I learned to respect my own limits and desires. Each challenge I overcame felt like an invisible medal, a sign that yes, I was moving forward. I found strength in small things. An old book on the shelf, an old movie, his favorite song playing unexpectedly on the radio. Those details, once painful, started to become tributes. I began to speak about him with affection, no longer afraid of falling apart. I shared stories, memories, accepted the tight hug from anyone who wanted to help. One day, looking in the mirror, I realized it was still me there, despite all the changes. There was sadness in my eyes, but also a new courage. The fear of starting over got smaller because I understood I didn't need to erase the past to move forward. I just had to carry with me all the good that remained, turning pain into strength, memory into love. Facing the world alone was one of the biggest challenges. But little by little, I discovered I am stronger than I thought. I learned to plan my days, create new habits, allow myself to dream again. I found out that longing never leaves, but it changes its place inside us. It becomes part of who we are, shapes the way we see the world. On this journey, I started writing about what I was feeling. Sharing my pain, my victories, and even my failures helped to clear my mind. I discovered people who had been through the same thing and were also searching for a new beginning. Creating this support network made me feel less alone. Receiving a message saying, "I understand you," was as good as a silent hug. The greatest challenge was accepting the impermanence of life. Accepting that everything changes, that no one is eternal, that loving also means learning to let go. It was hard, but it brought me a new peace, as if I finally understood my own story. Time taught me that there's beauty even in the deepest scars. Today I see that there is life after loss, even if it's a different life. And you, have you ever felt something like this? How was it for you to face the silence and find strength to keep living? Share with me in the comments. Your story might be the comfort someone needs right now. Little by little, I began to rebuild hope. I allowed pain and joy to exist together, realized that nothing is permanent, not even suffering. The challenge is still there, but now there's a new strength guiding me, a will to live that is born from love and longing. Little by little, I started to realize that the pain doesn't just disappear overnight. It changes place, softens, stops being a storm and becomes a fine drizzle, one you learn to live with. My heart got used to the absence, and the memories, once painful, began to take on the shape of a good kind of longing. It wasn't easy nor quick, but there came a moment when I could look at the past with more tenderness than suffering. I found hope again in small details. A ray of sunlight coming in through the window, the smell of coffee in the morning, the song of a bird he liked to hear. Simple things started showing me there's still life even when everything seems meaningless. The new beginning came slowly, almost without me noticing, but it brought a new lightness. The house, once so full of emptiness, started gaining new colors. I put flowers in the living room, moved furniture around, opened windows that had been closed for ages. The space transformed along with me. I didn't erase the memories but made room for new things to come in. It was a process of rebuilding one step at a time, respecting my own pace. I discovered that overcoming isn't about forgetting, but about learning to live in a new way. Pain turned into learning. Longing became a bridge to the love that remained. I learned to value the memories but also to create new moments, new stories. The future started to exist again, even if it still scared me. Along the way, I reconnected with dear people, received sincere hugs, heard encouraging words. I realized I wasn't alone, and that there are many people who understand the pain of losing someone. This support network was fundamental. Sharing my story gave me strength and in some way helped other people as well. Bad days still come, but now they're less intense. When longing hits, I allow myself to feel it, but I don't let it take over everything. I've learned to smile again, to dream, to make plans. Grief doesn't define me anymore. It's just a part of my story. The love that stayed helps me keep moving forward. With time, I started going back to places I used to avoid, reconnected with friends, let myself live new experiences. Every small victory was celebrated, even the most discreet ones. I learned to be proud of the path I've walked, the battles I've won, the days when just getting out of bed was an achievement. Today I can look back and see how much I've grown. I'm no longer the same as before, and that's not a bad thing. I've gained a strength I never thought I had. The scars that life left became signs of overcoming, marks of a story full of love, pain, and learning. Living after loss is a daily act of courage. Every sunrise is a new chance to begin again, an opportunity to write a new chapter. I found meaning in small things, reconnected with myself and everything that's good for me. I learned to be grateful for what I had and for what I can still live. Transforming pain into love is possible. Sometimes all it takes is a gesture, a look, a kind word to renew hope. I discovered that there is beauty even on hard days, and that no one needs to face the loneliness of grief alone. Time does heal, but it's our openness to the new that makes all the difference. Today I feel gratitude. Gratitude for everything I lived, for every memory kept, for every step I took. I know true love never leaves. It just changes form. Grief taught me to love differently, deeper, calmer, more present. If you've come this far, know that you are not alone. Your story matters, your pain is valid, and your courage to keep going is admirable. Share in the comments how you found the strength to start over. Your experience might be the light on the path of someone still walking through the dark night. If this story touched your heart, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Every comment, every word shared here, is a silent hug from someone who understands what you're going through. Together, we can turn the silence of grief into a network of support and hope. Life is made of cycles, and overcoming is part of this journey. Don't be afraid to start over, to open yourself to the new, to look for joy even after pain. Believe, there is always a tomorrow waiting for you. Thank you for walking with me up to here.